Carlo Gambino, also known as Don Carlo, was born in Sicily on August 24, 1902. He was an Italian, U.S.-based mobster of the American Cosa Nostra and head of the Gambino family of New York City, named after him. He was one of the most powerful mobsters in Cosa Nostra history. How he managed to do that and how it affected his fortune we will see in this video.
On track, now we gon' way up. W's as easy as a layup. Working late, stay up. Counting all the way up. Counting blessings, yeah, you know we pray up.
Carlo Gambino was from a family that was involved in the so-called Honorable Society, which is the Italian equivalent of the American crime syndicate known as the Black Hand. Early in his career, Gambino established a name for himself in the Cosa Nostra criminal organization. Gambino, however, saw the potential for enormous profits in the United States despite the fact that alcohol was illegal at the time. In November 1921, he crossed the border into the United States illegally and joined his relatives, the Castellanos, in New York City. There, he worked alongside his uncle Giuseppe Castellano for the gang leader Salvatore di Aquila. Because of his hard effort, he was welcomed into the American Mafia at the conclusion of 1921, when he was just 19 years old. He was working with the so-called Young Turks, a younger generation of Italian-born American Mafia members at the time of his public admission. The gang engaged in stealing, robbery, and illegal gambling. In the early 1920s, during the Prohibition era, they turned to illicit alcohol bootlegging with their latter associate Arnold Rothstein. Early on, Gambino sided with Lucky Luciano, and throughout World War II, he made considerable sums of money by paying OPA officials and peddling their ration stamps on the black market. After a deadly struggle, Vincent Mangano took over as the family's new leader in 1931, and he named Carlo as one of his capos. From that point on, Carlo was able to command his own group, which included his obedient cousin Paul Castellano. Gambino was detained in 1937 and sentenced to 22 months in Lewisburg prison for tax evasion associated with running a distillery in Philadelphia. Vincent Mangano inexplicably vanished in 1951, and Albert Anastasia, his underboss, took over as the family's new head of household. In 1956, Carlo was selected as his new underboss. With a gang that produced money through extortion, illicit gambling, abduction, smuggling, and murder, Gambino was now poised to become the most powerful mob boss in the nation. More businesses and areas were under his control than all other family put together. It did not take long for a few would-be mobster to start criticizing Anastasia's methods. After earning the wrath of the Genovese family leader and losing the favor of the powerful Meyer Lansky, Anastasia was murdered in 1957. Carlo Gambino was left to fill the void. One of the 5 families of New York's under Gambino's control became his to rule, and they came to be known as the Gambino family. He wasted little time in growing his company swiftly across the country. He could travel everywhere in the nation, including Boston, Chicago, Miami, Los Angeles, and Las Vegas. Gambino assumed control of Manhattan with the aid of his capos, Neil Delacroce and Paul Castellano. Additionally, Gambino was a longtime partner in the labor management relations business SGC Associates. At his zenith, Gambino had control over 90% of the ports in New York City in the 1960s. At that time, the family had almost 30 outposts around the nation with about 800 dangerous gang members. The family earned more than $500 million in total revenue per year. Carlo Gambino's personal fortune is estimated at around $400 million. Gambino established his own deal-or-die family rule. Allegations state that Gambino sent the following message to every member of the organization. Heroin and cocaine were extremely profitable, but they were also risky and would draw attention. Drug trafficking is punishable by death. Gambino's position effectively gave him the right to claim the title Capo di Tutti I Capi, which is Italian for boss of all bosses, even though the Mafia had disbanded it. He was now the leader of the biggest, wealthiest, and most influential crime family in the nation and, as of 1959, the chairman of the so-called American Mafia Commission. His oldest son Tommy Gambino wed the Lucchese crime lord Thomas Lucchese's daughter in 1962. At the wedding ceremony, more than 1,000 family members, friends, and organized crime figures were present. Gambino allegedly offered Lucchese a $30,000 welcome to the family gift. In exchange, Lucchese involved Gambino in airport operations that were within his control, especially at John F. Kennedy International Airport, where Lucchese personally oversaw all management, security, and labor unions. Carlo Gambino also worked in the textile, construction, transportation, nightclub, and pizza business industries. Despite having a million-dollar empire, Carlo operated in secret, lived simply, and attracted little attention. It was said about Gambino's method of operation that it was extremely violent but also highly sophisticated and discreet. One particularly well-known incident is Dominic Sciallo, a feared and revered soldier of the Colombo family who, while intoxicated, became extremely haughty, loud, and disrespectful. Sciallo came into Carlo Gambino in a well-known Italian restaurant one day in October 1974, and he immediately started to harass and abuse him in front of other patrons. Gambino kept his composure, like he always did, and remained silent. Shortly after, Sciallo's body, which had been covered in concrete, was discovered in a ditch in South Brooklyn. Gambino was accused of participating in a robbery at Kennedy Airport in 1969, but his attorneys were able to repeatedly delay the trial because of Gambino's health issues. The government eventually attempted to deport him to Italy, but he was able to work out a deal with two powerful congressmen that allowed him to stay in the country in exchange for paying a monthly fine. Carlo Gambino's health deteriorated in the 1970s, but he continued to dominate his and the other New York families with an iron grip without drawing much notice from the public. At that point, a vehicle with the words Organized Crime Control Bureau started to remain parked in front of his Brooklyn home on a regular basis. The FBI used cameras, lip readers, and audio surveillance tools in the van to record activities at the home, including microphones that were covertly installed in Gambino's flat. In an effort to connect Gambino to organized crime, the FBI had a 24-hour standby in the van. Nonetheless, Gambino continued to have business discussions in the residence using a combination of silent gestures and coded words. The tape recordings remained useless. Due to his ill health at the time, he chose Paul Castellano as interim boss starting in 1974 after grooming the latter to succeed him. It was widely believed inside the Gambino family that underling Neil Delacroce would succeed Gambino. Nevertheless, Gambino designated Castellano as his heir on his deathbed in 1976. Castellano more closely resembled the modern mafioso who focused on white-collar crime. Delacroce would continue to be the family's underboss and oversee its street activities in Manhattan, such as protection rackets and other activities. According to Gambino's confirmation, but facto the family split when Castellano took the helm. Early on October 15, 1976, Gambino passed away at his Long Island home from natural causes. On October 18, 1976, a funeral liturgy was given for him in Brooklyn. According to some estimates, at least 2,000 people, including police officers, judges, and politicians, attended Gambino's funeral. And that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I would be glad if you subscribe to my channel and give me a thumbs up. Bye.